Various newspapers are reporting regarding the supposed protest in the Gaza Strip along the Israeli southern border, that a peaceful protest is being conducted by the Palestinians. And certainly newspapers are giving the Gazans the benefit of the doubt that it is peaceful. It's being breached by the participants in the march, in which they're reporting that 12 people have died and somewhere around 550 have been injured. And according to the sponsors of the march, they will continue in this capacity until the U.S. Embassy is moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which will be May 14th. It is being reported that an estimated 17,000 to 20,000 people have participated in this march, and that the participants are burning posters of President Donald Trump. Now, of course, papers such as the New York Times, The Sun, and a number of others are calling this a harsh response to a civil protest, but nothing could be further from the truth. The Israelis have taken the time to fly leaflets over the area that told the participants that if they try to breach the wall, that they would be shot. And certainly those that have tried to have been shot. It seems like the international community has simply lost their mind, because it just seems that today that people can do anything they want to do as long as they are unarmed with a gun. It's just like the various shootings here in the United States, where criminals have done and committed various crimes, and even to the point of assaulting police, and in the process have gotten shot. And I think it's senseless to think that just because you are unarmed, if you're breaking the law, you're taking the chance of getting shot. And I'm not sure where in the world we lost sight of that. But now criminals are allowed to run from the law, and if you shoot them and they do not have a gun, or at least did not flash their gun at the policeman, they could be up. The policeman could be up for criminal charges. I'm not sure when it crossed over from obeying the law completely by raising your hands, dropping any weapons, to being told to put up your hands and then go into an all-out sprint and think that you may not be shot because of some type of public outcry. And the one thing that people do not understand is this right here, is that when a policeman is forced to chase down a criminal, he takes the chance of being shot or stabbed, or the policeman himself could be injured while pursuing the criminal. He could catch the criminal, tackle him, and then in the process be stabbed by a knife that has been concealed up to this point. But in a world that has lost their mind, that is simply okay, as long as you don't kill a criminal who does not have a gun. But enough about that. Moving on to the next story, it says from coming out of the Israeli newspaper, Israel National News, it says that Trump says that we'll be out of Syria very soon. Now, certainly that does play into the scenario the Bible describes in Ezekiel 38, where Israel will be left unprotected against the Russian, Iranian, and Turkish forces, along with other Islamic nations who will be camping on Israel's northern border. And certainly it would make sense that the United States would not be in the area. But we'll have to wait and see if that is the case and how long it does take, if in fact the United States does withdraw from Syria. But one of the statements in the article that I thought was very telling was that Mr. Trump said that the reason why they were leaving Syria was because they were going to leave the dirty work of ISIS to others in the region. In other words, listen, this is your problem. You now take care of it. We've pretty much decimated ISIS. But you are in charge of the Middle East, so you clean up your own mess. Well, that very well may be the backdrop of what happens with Russia coming down upon Israel. With the absence of the United States, that would make it that much more easy. Now here's something coming out of the newspaper Israel Today. It says, report, Israeli jets enter Iranian airspace, target major cities. Now, whether or not the Iranians will admit it, I'm sure that brought chills up and down their spine to know that Israel was freely flying above their skies with nuclear targets locked in by the F-35s that went undetected by radar. And it says Arab media reported this week that Israeli fighter jets recently entered Iranian airspace and locked on to targets in several major Iranian cities. The jets in question were all from Israel's new fleet advanced F-35 stealth fighters, which were able to carry out the probing mission without detection by Iran's Iranian-supplied air defenses. The report indicated that 2 Israeli F-35s flew over Syria and Iraq, presumably in coordination with American forces in the region, before penetrating Iranian airspace and circling high over 3 large Iranian cities that house major components of Iran's nuclear program. And the Israeli jets practiced locking onto these targets before returning safely to Israel. And as many of you know, U.S. Ambassador David Friedman indicated that the U.S. patience with Ramallah is running out. And he also made clear that if Abbas won't negotiate with us, his replacement will. Now, of course, he did later recant that and say it was taken out of context. But frankly, I think he meant exactly what he said. Now, I don't think that the United States is about ready to assassinate or take out in some way Mr. Abbas. But I certainly wouldn't discount the fact that the pressure put on Mr. Abbas may come very hard and fast from top Islamic leaders of the moderate world if he does not recant. And frankly, I don't know that he will or if he won't, but I do know that if Mr. Trump does drop the Iranian plan or agreement, there's a reason behind that. And the reason is likely that he is soon to form this peace with many with the moderate Arab world. And certainly I don't think he's going to wait until Mr. Abbas is ready to get on board with this alliance until he does. So no, I don't see him waiting a year or 2 years down the road before this major alliance or this peace with many is formed. And frankly, somebody did make note of this. It was never about a peace with one in the first place. It was always, the Bible has always determined and prophesied that it would be a peace with many. So we'll just have to wait and see how long it takes before Mr. Trump does decide to go forward without Mr. Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. And what's going on in Gaza right now, it may indicate how much the U.S. just determined how irrelevant the Palestinian Authority really is. And a lot will be said as to how much weight and how much energy is wasted upon condemning Israel for doing probably what any other country in the world would have done if, in fact, a terrorist organization were trying to breach their land. Some of the things that you probably need to keep your eye on is, number one, what messages will be brought out during the ceremony from the move from Tel Aviv to Israel, or from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And certainly it would not shock me if U.S. President Trump made the announcement that he was going to tear up the Iranian agreement and form this alliance at some time in the near future. And one thing I haven't been keeping up with is who in the world is financing the Palestinian Authority if, in fact, the United States is no longer doing so. If you are listening in and you're one of my regular readers, you would appreciate any information that you may have come across indicating if, in fact, the United States has been paying any funds to the PA, or if, in fact, they've dropped the whole program altogether, which I don't think that's the case, but they may still be reducing the amount substantially, and other nations may be picking up that amount. But if you've heard something to that regard, shoot me an email, leave something in the comments, and you'll save me a little bit of research time. And if you know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. 150,000 people will die today. The Bible says that the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. Come to the Lord. Ask Him to save you today. Turn your life over to Him, and from this day forward, live for Him. And you that are already Christians, you need a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. Get it in the hands of every lost friend and loved one that you have. I would recommend that you get the paperback version, but there is a free digital version written in 9 different languages that you can also pass along. But in order for you to do that, you need to go down to the description section of this video, click on the link, and it will take you to a place where you can get either the free version or the paperback version. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.